Hello everyone! This is the entire rundown of everything I did to renovate this vintage pony box into my portable bakery. Back on April 21st, I bought the horse box off an old man named John in the middle of Ireland for €590. And I think, as you can see by the videos, it was not in very good condition, and the first thing to come out was the floor. It needed replacing immediately. I painstakingly measured for ages and cut a hole in the side of the horse box for this opening window. I gave the inside a good clean, took off all the old paint chippings, don't worry, they weren't lead. I also realised that the back door needed to be lowered, so I cut it off. I proceeded to cut it in half, hammer it, and put it back on. After spending my entire budget in the hardware store, it was time to go on to the hardest part of the project, the back door. The curve was so daunting because I had never worked with metal before, and if you don't know, metal is extremely expensive. After checking and rechecking, all my measurements were right. I made hinges, sanded a little bit, and then cut my metal. Let me tell you, with the amount of riveting I did, I never want to rivet anything in my entire life again. After I finally cut the back door down to size, I realised that it was time to pick the outside colours. Let me tell you, I was so nervous, but I think I definitely picked the best colours. Unfortunately, the fun of painting had to wait because I had to repair the two mudguards by welding them. Here is where disaster struck. I realised the roof was not water sealed and there was a leak. I unscrewed all 50 of the bolts in the roof and stuck in some waterproof silicone. I tightened them up and thankfully that fixed the leaking problem, but it was back to the mudguards. They needed a lot of damage repair. Using a junction box, I figured out how to rewire all the electrics to make it road legal. I also just checked if the 50-year-old tire lights had damage, and they didn't. I weighed and measured the arm length for the window and made sure all of the galvanized metal was primed. When I finally finished welding the mudguards, it was time to strip them of their old paint and repaint them with the primer and the pink paint. At the time I thought this was a lot of sanding, but in reality it was nothing compared to what was coming for me. As no one can see the back of the mudguard, I painted it with a rust oxide just to give that little bit of extra protection. I made these two semicircles that go either side of the window just to hold the hydraulic arms away from the edges, making sure that the window closes fully. Now it was finally time to start working on the inside. All of the wood was put up and then I fixed the insulation between the wood. To make sure the insulation never got punctured, I took out all of the old horse bits and bobs on the inside and also patched them so it was completely waterproof. Proceeded to patch all of the tiny little holes that I had made inside of the horse box with some rivets. I put a waterproof lip above the window and then patched the roof with roof tape. With some wood, I made some paneling that holds the insulation against the walls and stuck it to the roof as well. I took the back door off, sanded it and painted it. I also repainted the inside of each tire. I also painted the inside of the mudguards as well. When the tires dried, I finally reattached them. I also reattached new lights, a license plate and painted the hitch white. Now came the part I was dreading. Wiring. Electrics are my least favourite thing to do, but thankfully I got them alright and all the lights are working. I screwed on some plywood where the underneath of the countertops will be and then I installed the floor. Slowly but surely I installed the countertops and making sure they were level at every stage was very important. I rounded off all the corners with a jigsaw to make sure they were beautiful and smooth. At this point I was clueless as to what I was going to put along the walls, but I decided on some horizontal tongue and groove. And I'm glad I did, I really like it. I also treated it with a worktop oil to make sure it is hygienic. In the process I dropped merch and then I really decided I was going to decorate it with a lot of flowers along the roots and along the tops of the tongue and groove. After adding some little shelving underneath the countertops, it was time for the first event. I was very excited but also very nervous. This was just a trial run to make sure my opening date in Dublin will be as perfect as possible. I just want to thank you all for almost 800,000 followers. That's insane, and make sure to follow along.